go to the hospital, my leg.
Yeah, we gonna get you to the hospital.
His gang rushed King Vaughn to the hospital after he was shot outside the hookah lounge, but his cousin Van claims that the struggle for his life wasn't peaceful. Before things took a bad turn, he had 2 procedures.
He was supposed to have 3 surgeries. He made it through 2. He hopped off the bed after the 2nd surgery and supposedly started fighting the nurse.
The security tape from those final moments has now surfaced, and what it shows is much stranger than anyone could have predicted. The shocking facts of King Von's last hours. King Vaughn, one of Chicago's most feared drill rappers, was shot and killed outside Atlanta's hospital early on November 6, 2020. Most fans are ignorant of the horrific reality of what transpired in Van's final minutes at the hospital, despite the fact that surveillance cameras captured the violent shootout that led to his hospitalization. It has the sound of a legendary drill song. Before Bo stepped forward, no one knew what had happened behind those hospital doors. Bo explains how King Vaughn died during surgery. A Reddit post from March 18, 2025, garnered over 400 votes and 300 comments from astonished followers, suggesting that the narrative will cause a stir in the hip-hop community. Even as a surgeon, Vaughn didn't sleep well. According to Bo King, fought to save his life. According to a World Star hip-hop article from March 2025, Vaughn actually regained consciousness and jumped off the surgery table out of pure adrenaline and street instinct. In Chicago's O Block and elsewhere, Van exhibited the same gritty, street mentality that made him a famous.
He had 3 surgeries, but he made it. He was supposed to have 3 surgeries. He made it through 2. He hopped off the bed after the 2nd surgery and supposedly started fighting the nurse and asked the nurse, where's his gun at?
Bo claims that despite Vaughn's serious injuries, he clashed with hospital professionals who insisted that his weapons stay in survival mode. Vaughn died of shock as a result of this final act of resistance, because his body could not withstand the severe physical strain and the gunshot wounds. If you're familiar with Van's songs, you'll notice that several comments following the discovery read, "That's the most Van thing I ever heard about how he lived. A real soldier. He was the most feared guy in Chicago because of the exact way he would look for his pole, right up until the very end, when he was about to fall off the operating table." This account received hundreds of shares and comments in 2025, and it swiftly spread throughout social media platforms. Fans debated this final chapter of Van's life in great detail after reading the narrative. We must first grasp who King Vaughn was in order to understand why this story resonates so powerfully with fans. Not just any rapper, Devin Bennett Vaughn was regarded by many as one of the most feared figures in Chicago's. He had built a strong street reputation in O Block with songs like Crazy Story and Took Her to the O before his rap career took off under Lil Durk's Fable Vaughn. Since many believed that his authentic storytelling reflected his real experiences in the perilous streets of Chicago, it was more than simply art. Vaughn embodied that genuine, unfiltered essence of Chicago because he lived on the streets and wasn't just singing about them. His fans therefore believe this description of his final moments to be. Many people who knew him say that he never gave up and was always ready for whatever that came his way. In actual life, Vaughn embodied the same intensity that he did in his music. Although his actions did cost him his life, his alleged final moments, in which he engaged in combat with medical professionals searching for his weapon as his life was nearing to an end, are now a part of the King Von legend, confirming his reputation as a soldier until the very end.
He died because he went into shock. So
Yeah.
So I'm guessing if he would just laid there, he probably would have survived.
This account of Van's last stand has been incorporated into many memorials made by supporters on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. This story is the ultimate tribute to Van's character, a eight-eyed guy who lived and died by his code for his devoted followers. This narrative has also influenced lyrics by other artists honoring Van's famous last moments, which include references to jumping off the operating table. Fans remarked, "Van really jumped off the operating table looking for his demon hours." In the realm of drill rap, where legends are built on street credibility and unwavering toughness, Von's purported last moments are the ultimate proof of his authenticity, despite medical professionals' doubts that someone could survive surgery. or live long enough to participate in physical combat after multiple gunshot wounds. References to this event are common in murals and shrines to King Vaughn in Chicago's Oblak and across the country, with homage representing the weapon he supposedly sought in his last moments. The picture of Vaughn rising from the surgery table has become as memorable as any of his record covers or music videos. Whether you believe Boo's account or not, there's no denying the impact it's had on King Vaughn's legacy for his fans. Some commenters wrote, "This is the kind of story they'll tell about Vaughn in 100 years. They knew what kind of demon Vaughn was. He died from being too real for this world, not from gunshots. Looking for his pole during surgery is the hardest thing I ever heard." Ultimately, the events that took place in that hospital room have become more significant than King Vaughn himself, and it is a testament to the life he led and the legacy he left behind. A legacy that continues to influence drill music and street culture years after his death. For King Vaughn fans, it is not just another story of a rapper who lived his life to the fullest. It is the final chapter in the life of a real one who remained true to himself until his very last breath on March 19th, 2025. The perfect ending to the tale of a man who lived by the gun and ultimately died in search of one. On the same day that King Von allegedly died from shock after he jumped out of his hospital bed and fought with nurses while looking for his gun. After surgery, a Reddit post from R Churicology titled "Bo explains how King Vaughn died during surgery" says he hopped off the bed, fighting and looking for his gun and died, received 418 votes and 348 comments. On April 10th, 2025, a YouTube video titled "New Video of King Vaughn Jumping Out of His Hospital Bed, Looking for His Gun During Surgery and Dying," allegedly showing actual footage of the incident, was also posted. I never spoke with them, and the deadly feud between King Vaughn and Quando Rondo was sown long before they would face off. Devoted to street life, that he tried to carry on the battle from his hospital bed. If this story is true, it would only serve to further solidify Van's reputation as a fearless soldier who lived and died by the rules of the streets. However, the YouTube videos that use these claims in their titles typically feature commentary over still images of King Vaughn, or recycled clips from interviews and music videos rather than actual hospital security camera footage. We must examine the beginnings of this feud in the street alliances and label affiliations that define the contemporary rap industry. King Vaughn, whose real name is Takian Bowman, was born in Chicago's notoriously violent Oblak neighborhood and became well known as a protege of Lil Durk. In 2018, Quando Rondo, whose real name is Takian Bowman, joined the NBA Young Boys Never Broke Again collective from Savannah, Georgia. However, this was more than just a conflict between the camp's leaders Lil Durk and King Vaughn. Particularly in 2018 or 2019, Vaughn and Quando first came into contact with one another when King Von publicly criticized NBA Young Boy's music on Instagram Live, casting doubt on his street cred with remarks like, "The FK Youngboy talking about on this song, bro, he's talking crazy, he ain't even like that on his A Now cap." While this may seem like standard rap bravado in the hypersensitive drill music ecosystem, disrespect like this rarely goes unanswered, which is what makes this situation particularly tragic. King Van, perhaps downplaying the upcoming fight, said, in an interview before his death, "There's no rap beef and there's no real beef unless somebody got shot." Multiple verified reports and the surveillance footage that would later be used as evidence of the violence that would occur on November 6th, 2020. A date that would permanently change the paths of numerous careers and lives, show that at around 4 a.m. outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in downtown Atlanta, surveillance cameras captured what began as a chance encounter between two entourage and ended in bloodshed. When King Vaughn and his team saw Quando Rondo and his friends in the parking lot, they left the lounge. What happened next is still up for debate, but the video clearly shows Vaughn approaching Quando's group and then getting into a physical altercation. Things quickly got out of control, with punches being thrown before someone later identified. As Timothy Lul Tim Leaks, a close friend of Quando Rondo, came out from behind an SUV and began shooting. King Vaughn was hit multiple times during this initial round of gunfire, which left 6 people shot and 3 dead, including a tragically short story for one of drill music's most promising storytellers, the incident involving Vaughn and fellow Chicago native Mark Blakely is made more complex by the fact that both off-duty and on-duty Atlanta police officers were in the area when the shooting took place, intervened, and returned fire. But official reports from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation indicate that King Vaughn was shot during the initial civilian exchange rather than by police gunfire, and was later taken to a hospital in a private vehicle, where he would later die from his injuries at the age of 26. Timothy Leaks was arrested on suspicion of felony murder in connection with King Vaughn's death in 2020, just one day after the incident, and the Atlanta Police Department initially believed the homicide investigation was closed because they had strong evidence that Leaks was responsible for the fatal shooting. However, the legal proceedings would take several unexpected turns in the months and years that followed, even though Leaks was granted $100,000 bail, despite the fact that murder is not a bondable offense under Georgia law. Bond on March 27, 2021, after his legal team successfully appealed to the Superior Court. This controversial decision immediately angered King Von's friends and supporters, as fellow Chicago rapper Lil Ree threatened on social media that we're going to roll his ass up real soon. The investigation resulted in the arrest of 2 more people. Johnny Harris was charged with possessing a firearm by a convicted felon, and Kevin Jones was charged with aggravated assault. Meanwhile, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation continued to investigate the officer-involved shooting incident. The most shocking development of the Atlanta Police Department's continued focus on civilian homicides was the dismissal of Timothy Leaks' felony murder charges in August 2023 before he was ever charged. His attorney, Noah Pines, confirmed the shocking development to multiple news outlets, but the Fulton County District Attorney's Office never formally disclosed the reason for the dismissal, which only served to escalate a feud that was already spiraling out of control on social media, with diss tracks and real-world violence following Van's death. Quando Rondo released End of Story 2 weeks after the November 20, 2020, deadly shooting in Atlanta. The song addressed the altercation and reaffirmed his self-defense narrative, with lines like, "Look at the footage, that's all the evidence see them pushing shouldn't have ran up on me." Wando made it clear that he saw Vaughn as the aggressor in their confrontation, and the song's title seemed to be meant to provoke, suggesting that Van's story had ended. Despite these claims of innocence, Quando Rondo faced significant backlash for actions that many perceived as disrespectful to Van's memory on April 3, 2021, during a virtual concert, where he allegedly dissed King Vaughn by rapping lines like, "He got caught without that pole and now that on." Wando went further in an interview with Angela Ye in April 2021, saying that he was asleep in a car at the time of the event and didn't realize it was King Vaughn until the following day, insisting that, "I never in life had words with them ever. I'll urinate on his tomb." He also purchased an expensive diamond-encrusted watch for Leaks, which DJ Academics shared on social media to demonstrate his unwavering support for the man suspected of killing Von Lyle Dirk. King Von's mentor and close friend also didn't remain silent, as his musical rebuttals became more direct after initially being more subdued and coded. By 2022, the tension between the camps had escalated to the point where NBA Youngboy and Lil Durk were more prominently involved in what was becoming one of the most dangerous feuds in hip-hop. In January 2022, the NBA Youngboy Never Broke Again Collective released Bring the Hook, which included lyrics that seemed to disrespect King Van's memory and Chicago roots by making fun of his death and his neighborhood. This That Squid Game, Oblock Pack, Get Wrapped, Up in Oblak. Lil Durk responded with his own song, Aha, in which he directly mentions Van's death with lines like, "And as acting like they really like that since my Brody died." But the feud wasn't just about music, as real-life violence continued to follow both camps in May. While Wando Rondo was not seriously injured in the August 19, 2022, shooting in Blackshear, Georgia, Quando was involved in another shooting on the same day, this time in Los Angeles, where his cousin Savia Robinson, also known as Lou Pab, was killed. This shooting would prove particularly significant, as TF affiliates reportedly celebrated the incident. One associate, Brick Baby, claimed that this was retaliation for King Vaughn's death, stating that they could no longer say that Slide for Vaughn after Lil Pab's death, As fans grieved for the Chicago drill star, tensions between the camps of Lil Durk's Only the Family, OTF and NBA Young Boys Never Broke Again were already simmering dangerously. And little did they know at the time that this incident would eventually lead to the most serious legal consequences yet in this deadly feud, with ramifications that continue to unfold today from beef to murder for hire. The social media and musical battles soon gave way to real-world violence, demonstrating how rap can escalate beyond typical rap rivalries. Industry rivalries can have deadly consequences that go far beyond public posturing and diss tracks, even though no formal connections were ever made. Quando Rondo was shot in Blackshear, Georgia, on May 3, 2021, 6 months after King Von's death, but he escaped serious injury. The situation escalated dramatically on August 19, 2022, when he was involved in another shooting, this time in Los Angeles, where his cousin Savia Robinson, also known as Lupab, was killed. This tragic incident would later become central to the federal case against Lil Durk. In October 2024, nearly 4 years after King Von's death, the feud took a shocking turn when US Marshals arrested Lil Durk in Florida on federal charges related to an alleged murder-for-hire plot that targeted Quando Rondo. The indictment filed in US District Court in Los Angeles stated that the plot killed Rondo's cousin Lou Pav in that August 2022 shooting in Los Angeles, and prosecutors described the operation as a meticulously planned operation driven by retaliation for King Von's murder. The charges against Durk include murder for hire involving a death, use of interstate facilities to commit murder for hire, resulting in death, and multiple firearms charges, including the use of a machine gun in a violent crime that resulted in death. The evidence presented included financial records showing credit cards linked to F used for travel arrangements and damning text messages like "Don't book no flights." Federal prosecutors have accused Durk of funding and orchestrating the operation by paying 5 associates: Kayvon London Grant, DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Brian Lindsay, and Asa Houston, to travel from Chicago to Los Angeles to carry out the hit. If found guilty, Durk faces a statutory maximum of life in federal prison, with some reports suggesting the possibility of the death penalty. Whitney's suggestion that an attempt was made to conceal the connection location data, placing Durk in the San Fernando Valley on the day of the shooting under no names, strengthened the prosecution's case. Perhaps the most damning was Durk's alleged attempt to flee the country after his associates were arrested. With reservations for international flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy cited as evidence of consciousness of guilt. Gigabytes of digital evidence and 20,000 pages of reports. Andrea Laquila, Robinson Labs' mother, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Durk, his business manager, and another company in February 2025, complicating the case further. Durk's legal team has contested the evidence, arguing it is based on false information, including YouTube videos uploaded by fan accounts and song lyrics that prosecutors have used as evidence. And Lil Durk's legal team has also fought federal charges. 3 days after Durk's arrest, Quando Rondo posted an enigmatic message on Instagram. Alongside Rondo wrote, "We didn't get into this music industry to make it just to stay caught up in this street. We all have families and communities counting on us. It's time to leave all that behind. We've already lost so much, and it's heavy on my heart to forgive anyone I had issues with in the past. It's all love from me praying for everyone." Although he didn't mention Lil Durk by name, the timing and content led many to interpret it as a response to Durk's arrest, and perhaps an attempt to de-escalate the conflict after he lost his cousin and was the target of multiple assassination attempts. In contrast to the violent rhetoric that had dominated the feud for years for the music industry, this case highlights the growing use of song lyrics as evidence in criminal proceedings, a practice that disproportionately affects rap artists and raises troubling questions about the relationship between artistic expression and real-world violence when fans interpret lyrics about retaliation as promises that must be fulfilled, and when social media amplifies these expectations. Artists can find themselves trapped in escalating cycles of conflict from which they feel unable to escape without losing credibility. While everyone involved in this fight has had their lives irrevocably changed, King Von's brilliant career was cut short at the age of 26. Quando Rondo has lost his cousin, Little Durk, one of the biggest stars in rap. He now faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars, and countless associates on both sides have been arrested, injured, or killed in the ongoing violence. Perhaps most concerning is the way this story is still unfolding. Durk's legal team's objection to the prosecutor's use of his lyrics highlights this ongoing argument and raises concerns about racial bias in the justice system. Even though Quando Rondo has ostensibly called for peace, the legal proceedings against Durk ensure that the conflict will remain in the public eye for years to come, potentially inciting more violence and retaliation from loyal followers on both sides. If you found this investigation useful and would love more content like this, please click on the card that shows up on your